Hello and welcome to my guide for new players who are just getting into Darktide following the Steam Christmas sale and the Xbox release. I just want to go over a few things that they don't really teach you in the tutorial and through the leveling process that a lot of people don't seem to understand or aren't aware of. So, going forward, we're going to cover a bunch of different topics. Hopefully this will help you to have a more pleasant gaming experience and at the same time help you to be more useful to your team in various missions. So first up, I want to talk about difficulty levels. Now, I've seen a lot of people running difficulty levels that they aren't capable of. So I just want to go over a rough idea of where you should be looking to aim at. And we're also going to cover some of the mission modifiers that you can get as you progress into the higher difficulties. So generally, my rule of thumb is until you reach level 10, stick in Sedition. Yes, the rewards aren't going to be that great, but you're low level, you're not going to have most of your unlocks, so it doesn't really matter. You're probably going to be getting rid of these weapons pretty quickly, maybe after a mission or two. So it's not that big of an issue if the weapons you're getting given aren't amazing. Then, between levels 10 and 20, I recommend going through to Uprising. Again, you're not going to get the good rewards, you're not going to get that much, but you will have a more pleasant gaming experience playing through. Then, finally, between levels 20 and 30, you want to be jumping up to Malice. This is going to give you better gear options, better drops, although you still won't have all your unlocks at this point. As you go through, you're going to get the better unlocks, you're going to work up, you're going to be starting to get those better items, and you're going to be able to be more of a impactful member of the team. Now, the reason I say this is because until you're level 30, you don't have all your skill nodes, you don't have your full loadout, you don't have all your weapon options, and your weapons are generally going to be of a lower quality. Now, I'm going to be covering the skill trees and weapon quality later on down the line, but for now, just suffice to say, Sedition for up until level 10, Uprising to level 20, Malice to level 30. Then after that, you can sort of progress into Heresy and Damnation if you want to. As far as the mission modifiers go, we've got a variety here showing on the screen at the moment. So, for example, this one here is a high intensity, so just more of everything. Here we've got a high intensity hunting ground, so you've got a lot more heretics and hounds. Rather than coming in individually or in twos, they're now coming in packs of like half a dozen or so. These are a lot easier to kill, much lower health. But you are going to have to think about ways of dealing with a group of them at once so your entire party doesn't get pinned. You can also get these as low intensity, where you just have fewer heretics walking around. It's also worth mentioning Shock Troop Gauntlets is another modifier you're going to want to look out for. This is where your specialists come in multiples, so rather than getting, say, one Poxburster, you're going to get two, maybe even three at a time. So you're going to want to watch out, you're going to want to make sure you're capable of dealing with Poxbursters before they start taking your team apart. So next up, I want to talk about weaponry and talent. So with your weapons, what I recommend is that you bring a combination that is able to deal with horde enemies and also have high single target damage for dealing with elite specialists, augments and monstrosities. We'll go into more of this when I get into the Psychadium and start showing a few things around, but generally you're wanting to look for either a melee weapon with, we go through to the weapon breakdown, we go through to the inspection, with either Vanguard or Relentless on light attacks, or you're going to be wanting to look for a ranged weapon that has a low damage, high rate of fire. And then on the other one, or swapping it round and having a melee weapon that has high single target with the high rate of fire gun, or a high single target gun with the Vanguard and Relentless light attacks. Having strike down heavy attacks on a melee weapon with Vanguard and Relentless light attacks is also quite helpful for dealing with elites and stuff. So you can look into that as a potential option if you want to go more melee orientated. As far as talents go, you're going to want to look for something that works for you. Don't worry too much about whether you're running the meta or you're running something that, you know, you're running sort of the best loadout that people are putting forward. Think of more what works for you, what helps you, but also what helps the team. All 4 classes have some version of increased coherency radius. This increase not only helps you keep friends closer to keep your toughness regen up, but it's also helping to give your aura to your allies. Well worth looking into things like that. But also you're probably going to want to test things out in the Psychanium, which is what we're going to do next. Hello, Future Chris here. I forgot to cover a segment before we went to the Psychanium, just covering weapons, upgrades, blessings, refinements and consecrations. So, first thing to note on your weapon, this applies for all weapons, as you can see it's split into different blocks. Now, the main thing you want to worry about is this block here. This is your base modifiers for the weapon, covering various different aspects of what it can do. So as you see here, we've got damage, mobility, defenses, penetration and finesse. Over here we've got damage, crowd control, penetration, defenses, power up, output, and so forth. It's different for every weapon, but the main thing you want to worry about is this number here and how high that is. Now the highest you can get is 380, which I think I've got a 380. No, I've got a 380 gun though. There we go. 380 is the highest you can possibly get. So that's what you should be looking to aim for with your gear. If you don't have that, don't worry. You will get better drops as you keep playing, so just keep grinding out and eventually you will find better items. This rating is a little less important during the leveling process, as this is also based on your perks and blessings, and we'll cover those in a minute. So, going back to the club, there's always going to be certain modifiers that you're not overly worried about. So for example, with this one, mobility, I don't honestly care about a high mobility score. I'm not too worried about things like my sprint speed, stamina usage, number of dodges. I am worried about defenses for blocking, finesse, penetration and damage for the total damage I do to various enemies. If we come down to my current favourite weapon, the Mark 19 shovel, as you can see I've got damage 80, penetration 76, first target 78, giving me a good solid base damage score for my light and heavy attacks. However, the crowd control and defences are the wrong way round currently, so I'm going to be looking to try and get a weapon that swaps those over, so that the crowd control is higher, because this covers things like cleave and stagger, which is obviously a lot more important on a weapon with a relentless or vanguard attack pack. So moving on to perks, when it comes to these, you're probably going to want to look at covering the weapon's downsides. So if it's weak against flak or unarmoured, you're going to want to look at getting flak and unarmoured damage. But this should mostly, again, be more for later on if you've got the blessings you want. I'd worry less about this. There are certain ones you're probably going to want to get rid of, like say sprint speed or something like that, or crit chance or crit damage. But it's less important what's here. What is important after your modifiers are blessings. Now as you see here, I've got Thunderous. Target receives 4 stacks of bitterness on hit. This basically means if I hit something, it's going to take more damage, not just from me, but from all the other enemies. All the other rest of the team. And also, Confidence Strikes, giving me back toughness on chained hit. So every hit after the first, with a slight cooldown. Oh no, not cooldown. A slight. It's like a sort of a delay before it drops off. You're just going to keep getting 7% of your toughness back with every hit. great for survivability, but ultimately what you take on the weapon is going to be down to your playstyle and what you're interested in doing, what you need that weapon to do. So if we go to re-bless on this, as you can see, we've got several options here. I haven't unlocked all the tier 5 ones yet, but Skull Crusher, target receives 3 stacks of plus 10% damage if already staggered. Nice for landing up follow-up shots. Thrust, bonus power based on the charge time of your heavy attacks. Power relates to both damage and stagger. Then brutal momentum, bonus weak spot damage. If you've got a more precise weapon where you're constantly using finesse or strike down attacks and you're going for those headshots, this is going to give you a much better damage potential. And perfect strike, critical hits ignore hit mass bonus from armor. Again, this is great if you want to go swinging in with those light attacks and you've got some elites mixed in with the horde. This is going to help you cut through them a lot quicker. Again, these are all different for different weapons. There are some here which aren't on other weapons. There are some which are on other weapons that aren't on here. And there are different ones for melee and range. So you really need to sort of go through, find out what you're getting. So, next up, when it comes to consecration, I wouldn't worry about this until you're level 30. Just save up your plasteel and your diamantine, because as you can see, you're not going to get that much. I've got about 600 hours in the game at the moment, and I don't have that much, and my plasteel is really low compared to my diamantine, despite the fact that diamantine is a lot rarer. So you're going to want to save up here, wait until you're level 30. Likewise, if you get a new weapon, don't just sell the other weapon. If it's got blessing off, use the earn blessing bit, and then surrender the weapon. This is going to help you build up a library of blessings so that when you get to level 30 you can pick the blessings that you want, that you like the feel of. Obviously if you have the blessing, sell it, get your money up so that you can go to the shop and look at various options from that you might want to buy. Weapons that you tried earlier, the stats have dropped off because you've got better weapons since, but you don't have weapons of that particular type or mark. Okay, so now we'll go on to the Psychanium. And here we are in the Psychanium. So, just going to go around clockwise with the various enemies. So you've got your various horde enemies here. Generally, you're going to want something that can deal with lots of them at once. So as you see, my shovel is quite happily just smashing through them. These big wide sweeps. And remember, these guys won't just come in like 5s and 6s like we see here. You're going to get dozens of these at a time, and you're going to need to be able to clear them quickly, because all those little bits of damage will soon add up and start chipping away at your health once your toughness is gone. And we've got our more intermediate enemies, our scabs and dregs. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you can deal with these quickly and in a reasonable amount of time. Now, sometimes you're going to get lots of melee ones and you can just spam away with your light attack and just cleave through them. You're also going to want a way of dealing with them at range, especially the generic scabs with their las guns. They will slowly chip away at you. Next up we have gunners and maulers. Maulers are extremely tanky and do a lot of damage up front, so you're going to want to try and deal with those at range where possible. As you see, even with this grenade launcher that does fairly solid damage, it's still taking a few hits to take them down. Also worth possibly thinking about taking a grenade to deal with them. Right, and as for gunners, they are just as tanky at times. And again, can take a few hits to take down, especially on Damnation, which is what I've got this set on. So it's well worth finding a way to either stun them so you can close the distance, or having a decent accurate weapon with high single target damage so that you can essentially one-shot them. Next up with the Ogryns, we'll do these each individually. So starting with Crushers. Again, these are insanely tanky. You take an awful lot of damage to bring down. And you will sometimes get these in packs of like 5 or 6. So you're going to want to make sure you've got your dodge down. You can just stay out of their range, because they will two-shot you. Even, on Damnation, they can even one-shot you. Bulwarks, the best way to do with these is to stun them. I found a grenade to the face, and then while on the floor, standing up, get a few shots in, try and get round behind them, or just block and wait for your teammates to get round behind them. Both are good for options. Reapers will knock you back, will lay down high DPS. You're going to want a way of dealing with them nice and quickly. Coming over to the specialists, doggies die quite easily. So just melee them, especially if they jump. If when they jump at you, if you can time a melee attack to hit them while they're in midair, it will knock them back and send them running, giving you some breathing room. As for trappers, you can just wait till you hear the sound cue, and then just dodge sideways. Snipers are really easy to kill, especially with melee, but you're going to need a weapon with decent range, because they will often stay right at the back. So if I head over to the far side of the Psychanium, just to demonstrate. Again, you're going to need that high damage, one shot, because otherwise they will take off all your toughness and a chunk of your health. If you can, mark them out for your team as well. If you've got Psychers with knives or brain bursts, they can deal with them extremely well. Likewise, veterans with single shot weapons, like las guns, plasma guns, bolt guns while aiming down sights. Flamers, your best bet, just shoot them, aim where the flame is, hope for the best. With your mutants, wait until they get about this close and then dodge sideways, and you'll watch them run into a wall or whatever's behind you, and then you can just deal some nice damage to them while they're stunned. And finally, onto the big killers. These are your shotgunners and your ragers. Ragers will just keep going, even if you've got the levels of stun that the Ogryn comes with. They're going to keep hitting you. Best two options are either block and keep backpedaling and hope your team can deal with them, or have a weapon with the confident strike on it so that you can keep landing hits and keep regenerating your toughness as they're damaging you. This is a bit more of a difficult tactic on Damnation. Again, you will want to block and dodge as you're swinging at them, but it is possible. And then finally, the shotgunners, your best bet honestly is to get up close and personal. The shotguns do insane damage, but if you can close the gap on them before they get a shot off, they'll switch to a melee weapon and become a lot more manageable. At which point you can just lay into them, a couple of heavy attacks. If you're not too good in melee though, if you're playing say a Psycho or Veteran, just get those shots in, get them off fast. Don't give them time to start laying hits on you. Okay. And so that about covers it. Those are just some very basic, very straightforward ideas that you should be aware of going in, that a lot of people aren't, because it simply doesn't teach you during the basic training, the tutorial, and throughout the leveling process. These are things you're kind of expected to pick up as you go through, but not everyone has the chance to learn. So, as always, I want to thank everyone for watching. You know how YouTube works.